I'm so sorry. I feel like I should start over at this point. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about this. So here's one of the things that I have seen is, like I said, so many different people come to me and they say, listen, I can't believe that this person is the real person that that I've been with all this time. I believed the person they introduced me to, and I believed it for a long time. And I kept thinking, I need to get back to that person. How do I make that person come back? Right. Or how do I get back to that beginning part? And then what happens is you see every now and then you see this little bit of that person. Is this light annoying or what? Is that better? Um, anyway, you get back to that person. You get back to the person that you were, or the person that you, excuse me, I got distracted by the light. You're always looking for the person that you originally signed up for. And they keep you hooked by showing you little glimpses of that person through intermittent reinforcement. And so every now and then you see that person, you go, oh, there you are. Mm-hmm. And then you keep trying to keep that person around. And so you behave in ways that the narcissist sort of prescribes for you, right? So I'm just going to jump into the chat. Let's talk about it. All right. Let's see here. So actually, this is not a question related, but I think it's a question that we should just talk about from Aisha. She says, my narcissist is starting to reflect on how his actions were what caused our breakup, but he won't go to therapy for himself, only couples therapy. He says he's changed and doesn't need it. Yeah, that's probably because you actually left and he's not ready to lose you, right? So I never suggest that someone goes to therapy with a narcissist only because they're very good at, sorry, my cat's clawing my chair. They're very good at fooling therapists, especially if that therapist is not familiar with NPD. And so what ends up happening, hey, Melissa, what ends up happening is you end up without this cat. He's scratching at my legs. You end up feeling you're re-victimized in those situations, especially by a narcissist who says, oh no, I've changed, I'm different now, it's fine. He's not changed. People don't change as quickly as we'd like them to. And especially the only time I've ever seen anyone, narcissist or not, successfully make any personal changes is when they chose to because they wanted to. In this case, it would only be a temporary change, and it would only be because he would want to get you back. And then once you're, firmly back in the grasp of the narcissist, well, guess what? That mask is going to come off again, and you're going to see that person that you were running from in the first place. So just be careful, Aisha. Okay. Hello, Bass, Amanda, El Marie, Melissa, Angel, Amanda. Don't vantage anything. What do you mean, Amanda? Javelle says, yeah, I've experienced the narcissist mask. Right. Okay. Cheap Chinese headset. Well, that's probably true. Yeah. I never know which one to buy. Usually I get a Logitech, I don't know. But this time I got this one because it actually had cute little cat ears on it. But then I realized I'm an adult and I'm not really shouldn't probably wear those. So I took the cat ears off. But they are good for editing. And like I said, I bought a new microphone, but it will be next week before I can get it because I need a new stand for it. It doesn't work with what I've got. So yes. Okay. Janine says, I'm in a long distance relationship and I can't tell what's the false self sometimes. Oh, interesting. All right. So, Janine, this is a difficult thing. Here's the thing about a long-term relationship. I'm sorry, long distance relationship. Narcissists are really good at them, right? Because they can keep the mask on for a long time. It's very easy to keep the mask on in short bursts, right? So even if they come stay with you for like a week or a weekend, or you go stay with them, they can keep it on, but you'll catch glimpses of their real self if you're sure this is a narcissist. And I think, you have to look for the more subtle clues here, right? Like, so how do they talk about people in their lives? Or how do they treat, their mother? Or how do they treat, the waiter at the restaurant? Or, how do they when they gossip to you about someone else in their lives, are they saying, do they sound like they have any compassion? Do they very often say, oh, I can't stand that, or whatever? Do they listen to you talk? And if they do, are they listening with genuine interest, or are they listening just to wait until they can talk? Or are they listening and taking notes so they can use all this against you later? I mean, there's a lot. I guess I would need to know more about the relationship and how often you're seeing each other and spending time with each other. But I would say that if you haven't lived together, you might not see the mask come off unless you've spent more than a couple of weeks in the same house at the same time. Something to think about. Yeah, Shelly says, it took me forever to put my toxic together too. Yeah, feel you. Thanks, Bonnie. Okay, hello, Linda. Okay. So we have, yeah, you're right, Bass. It's not that I don't want to spend the money, it's just I never know which one to get. You know, I'm not very good at this. I try to read the reviews, and that's the best thing I could do, I guess. But if you have a recommendation, please let me know. I just got a new webcam too, because my other one died. You know, okay. Oh, here you go. Sage says someone else scapegoating Sage as the narcissist. And what I've seen in this situation, I've seen that a lot with a new supply, or even like your children or friends, they will spin everything around to where somehow you're the one at fault, and they convince people of this. It's a smear campaign. It's exhausting, frustrating, overwhelming, annoying, etc. I could go on if you want, but yeah, it's common. And in this case, what you need to do, if you can't, I don't know the whole story, Sage, but what you need to do, if possible, is to mentally and emotionally step away from those people. Anybody who's not listening to you, so anyone who's worth your time and energy, if in your opinion, give them a chance. Say, listen, if you know me, I'm not doing this, or I did what I said I did, or didn't do whatever, and if they can't respect that and at least entertain the possibility that you're not a big scumbag, well, then you step away emotionally. You don't give them your time and your energy, and you kind of reassess the situation when the smear campaign has passed and decide, is this person really worth having in my life, or are they toxic too? Just something to think about. Those flying monkeys, right? Okay. Faith says, no contact, restraining order, divorce. Well, none of us wants to have to go there, right? But when you're in a situation like this and the narcissist won't leave you alone, or they won't give you, your personal respect, the respect that you deserve, or they're literally stalking you, threatening you, etc., you do what you got to do. Yeah. Be safe, Faith. Base says, my narcissist couldn't be alone with herself unless she was unconscious. She simply couldn't handle her own thoughts. That is powerful, okay? Because here's the thing. I used to be so overwhelmed by my narcissistic people in my life, because they do require so much of your time and energy that it seems like they can't even fathom the possibility, that they could, they used to drive me crazy. It seems like they can't even fathom the possibility of being alone. And if they are, they blame you for it. And they'll call you repeatedly, or they will, show up wherever you are, because exactly what you said, they can't handle their own thoughts. They can't handle their own feelings. In fact, sometimes I wonder if they even have any thoughts. I mean, I know they do, but they really seem, and this is a silly thing I'm going to say, and I don't mean it literally. Okay. But don't you think it's like they have a playbook, right? It almost seems like there's some sort of pod people or something. My kids used to say that they're NPCs, like in video gaming, they call it non-player characters, where there will be pre-programmed characters throughout the game, basically put there to put an obstacle in your way or cause trouble for you along the way of the game or whatever. I don't really know a lot about gaming, but I get that concept, right? And I very often have thought that because it's so crazy how similar our stories really are, whether we're talking about a parent or a spouse or whatever, a friend or a coworker, whatever, you notice they all have almost, so many of their behaviors can be paralleled. And this doesn't matter what country they're from, what language they speak, what race they are, what church they go to, or synagogue or whatever. None of that is relevant. They could be the richest or the poorest person on the planet. They still have the same behaviors. That's bizarre, right? But this is a personality disorder. It's very fascinating. Okay, here we go. I was just kind of touching on this, Peggy. Peggy says, is there really a real self there? What a true chameleon. They only have masks. You know what? I think at the deepest core, I think some narcissists might have a self, right? There are some like lower level ones, right? There's a spectrum. And there are some narcissists that just, well, people we call narcissists who are just toxic people who have some narcissistic tendencies. But I think the tipping point becomes that empathy, which we've talked about a lot, the lack of empathy, right? So there's three different types of empathy. There's the compassionate empathy, there's emotional empathy, and then there's cognitive empathy. So the emotional empathy, you feel what they feel on a deep, powerful level, right? Compassionate empathy, you're moved to help them. You're moved to resolve whatever it is that is their problem, whoever you're feeling the empathy for. And then there's cognitive empathy, where you can logically understand what they might be feeling. And so but you don't feel per se. So most empaths will have all three types, right? And so they'll feel deeply for a person, they will want to help the person, and then they will also, do something about it because they can cognitively think about what to do next. Whereas a narcissist, they might appear to have empathy, but the reason they appear to have empathy is because of the cognitive empathy, right? So they definitely know, okay, this person must be sad, angry, whatever, on a logical level, but they're not affected by it in the same way that you or I would be affected by it. And that's, I think, what makes them toxic. Do they really have a true self? I mean, I wonder, right? Because have you ever noticed a lot of narcissists will sort of just become whoever they're with, or, at least pick up certain parts of their personalities, right? And this might be their person they're with romantically. It might also be that they make a new friend and that new friend is into like marbles. I'm making up a generic thing here. Nobody's into marbles right now. Some people, just kidding. My point is, let's say that, you're into marbles and you meet a narcissist, and all of a sudden the narcissist is also into marbles. And before you know it, they're way more of an expert than you could ever even dream of being, because they took your identity, sort of. I think a lot of narcissists don't really feel like they have much of an identity of their own. And so they sort of develop it. In fact, I've had a long conversation with one narcissist who actually told me, they pick up little pieces of their personality from everybody around them. Another one told me, I never understand what's funny until other people around me are laughing. And I thought that was weird and interesting. But yeah, anyway. Okay, moving right along. So I think their mask is, as I said to Peggy, I think their mask is something that is convenient. I think they have different masks for different people. Yeah. All right. Where were we? Okay. So Jack Lehman is speaking in Spanish. What did you do, Amanda? What are you talking about? What am I missing? I don't know. Okay. Oh, Tina, thank you. Prime Day. Listen, if anybody has suggestions for microphones or headphones that are better, please let me know. Send me a link or something, because, I'm interested, but I just don't have the ability to, and I will totally buy one if I can find the right one. Okay. Oh, Bonnie, listen. Bonnie says, I thought my sister would never betray me. I was wrong. Honey, listen, I get this. My brother did the same thing to me. I really, really believed that we had an understanding, that we had a good relationship. And he, colluded with my mother to bring bad people into my life. But it was okay because I wasn't doing anything wrong. I did get investigated, though, because of these lies, So, and I never thought, I was shocked when okay, so just for those who don't know, real quick, several years ago when my kids were all small, my mother called CPS on me and said that I was neglecting my children and abusing them, which I was not. And CPS came to my house, talked to all my children, and closed the case the same day. But I found out the hard way, this was my mother and my brother. And long story short, I was shocked, upset, devastated. But my mother, I wasn't, as shocked. Even though I never thought she would do something like that, I knew she was a narcissist, right? My brother, I had no clue, no clue. He became a flying monkey, I think, but for whatever reason, he thought it was appropriate to participate in her craziness, and I realized that she probably manipulated him into it, but I really never thought he would betray me. And so I feel you, Bonnie. I know it's painful, but when something like that happens, then you have to start to recognize what's really going on there. And a lot of times, it's because they have been affected by the narcissist's tales and stories. And like I was so shocked with my brother because even though he no longer lived in the area, like I just really thought, okay, we're connected, we get each other. But then I guess he got wrapped up in my mom's stories and just believed her, didn't even talk to me. So I get it. Hufflemom says, wait, what, Jack, what is the Prime Day? Okay, Jack, I will wait for a note on that because I don't know. Okay. Hufflemom says, I don't think I saw the mask come off my ex until after we broke up. He gave an ultimatum, marry him or marry in my faith, not both. I gave him his ring back and he moved away. Well, a lot of times, going, when you get the ultimatum, that's about the time that the narcissist will sort of, rip the mask right off. Going for so far as to, go through a whole relationship. I don't know how long you guys were together, but marry him or marry in your faith. I know that faith, your faith must be important to you. And I don't know the whole story here, but I do know that an ultimatum like that is certainly, it can be toxic for anyone involved. Yeah. Wendy says, could you please make a motivational video on why and how we should keep going strong on the no contact? I'm still struggling with how to let go of this narcissistic friendship. Okay. So, pardon me. So I did, excuse me, I've made several of those and I absolutely will make another one. Yes, absolutely. I will. But quick note on that. Knowing that narcissists are not generally capable of long-term change, number one. I do believe in theory that they could change. And what I mean is that if they were to go to the proper, the right therapist, and they were to work through the core wounds that they have, because most of them on some level have some trauma that led them to become a narcissist, just like you and I have trauma that led us to become codependent, unfortunately, right? But the narcissist, they just manifested the damage in a different way. Now, there are some narcissists who don't have any childhood damage. They just have, acquired situational narcissism, or, a lot of times there are some who are just overprivileged. Their parents spoil the crap out of them. And, like my ex-husband, he was never supposed to be born. His mother was physically disabled and was not supposed to have children, but then she did. And so he was this miracle baby, right? And so she just thought he hung the moon, so a lot of times, but there are other issues that go along with that. It's irrelevant today, but yeah. Okay, let's talk about let's get back to, but anyway, Wendy, yes, I will. Jack, if you will please add that to my list, I would appreciate you. The motivational video on why and how to keep going no contact. And Wendy, in the meantime, if you want to shoot me a message somewhere, either by email or on Facebook or something, I can send you the videos I have already done in the meantime. Janine, back to the long distance relationship. She says he says to take things at face value. I've never met him in person. He's always positive. Okay, so I assume you don't know for sure he's a narcissist. Being always positive is probably a sign that, he might be wearing a little mask, right? Saying to take things at face value, that's great. And that would be great if that were always true. It's hard to say with someone far away. How long have you guys been together? What else can you tell me about the relationship? How are you saying, the L word yet? Like, give me some more insight into that, please. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Jack. I see that. Okay. Thank you. Jack's already responded to Wendy. Thank you. Donna says it's been nearly 3 years and my ex's mask hasn't dropped yet to the new supply. The man is a monster. I don't understand why he hasn't messed up yet. Okay. Let me just say this to you, Donna. chances are he has messed it up unless they aren't living together. If they are living together, he's definitely messed it up. But a lot of times what happens, especially early in these relationships, is that the people involved are kind of shocked by it all still. And so I remember the first time that I really realized something was going on with that narcissist. And that's one of the things I ask my clients during the first call that I have with them. I usually say, at what point did you recognize something was wrong? Because in hindsight, we can always see it, right? It'll be something weird. Like with my ex, it was we were moving and he was like, I need to get a soda. And I'm like, well, go get a soda. And and he asked me for money, and I was pretty shocked, and acted like a little baby, and then threatened to leave me alone to finish the move. And I was very pregnant. It was not good. But so my point is, the mask sometimes drops early, sometimes drops later. But if you look back in hindsight, you can almost always see it. The new supply, I guess I don't know the whole story, but I'm guessing the new supply just isn't talking about it publicly or hasn't told anyone who's told you yet. So maybe you can fill me in on a little bit more information and we can go from there. Janine, I would be happy to book a session with you. You can go to queenbeing.com/coaching, or you can shoot us an email over at in my office, and my assistant can help you with that. Huffle Mom says, with the former fiance, after that, he moved to Idaho. I wrote to him asking how he was doing. He cussed me out and called me a word that means a female dog. I was very aware after that. Yeah, see that speaks volumes, right? And I'm guessing I know the religion if he moved to Idaho. But nothing against Idaho, but someone in my life came from there and they were a certain religion. And I think a lot of people in that vicinity tend to be that religion. I could be wrong. Okay, but I'm not negative about any religion. Let me just clarify that. I don't have any negative feelings about any of that. Okay, but yeah, that definitely is a big red flag. That's the mask coming right off. Sage says, yeah, my daughter believes I am toxic. That's a hard one. However, we are still in contact. So, okay, Sage, in this case, you don't owe anyone any proof of anything, right? I think it's good that you're in contact, but I think if she's claiming that you're toxic, that what I would do is I would sort of step back on any advice or opinions you give her about her life. Unless she specifically says, Mom, can I get some advice? Mom, can you tell me what to do? Then, and I don't know if you're actually, I can't see your picture very well. I can't tell if you're a mom or a dad. So I apologize if I'm saying the wrong thing. But being in contact is good. And I would just kind of keep it real surface on some level, unless your daughter says, can I get some help? Can you offer me your thoughts or advice on this topic? Otherwise, I would just not do that until things kind of calm down. That will sort of take away the sting a little bit. It's a lot of times when someone's accusing you or projecting their own toxicity onto you, whether this is her other parent or this is her herself, the thing they don't like is when you share an opinion that's different than their own, or when you act in some way that makes them feel that you're judging them. And I'm not saying that you're doing that, but I'm saying if you want to sort of smooth things over, this is what you do. You only say positive things and you only offer advice or tips or thoughts when they ask specifically for them. And even then, you're very careful. You say, well, whatever you choose to do, I will support you. However, this is, yeah. Okay. Bonnie says, I had to toss a ton of toxic people and actors. Sad, but it's eventually worth it. Yeah. I absolutely agree. Yeah, and that happens a lot, Bonnie. I'm sure you know, because what happens is that they end up you start to realize, okay, this person in my life is toxic. The same thing happened to me. I recognized one toxic person in my life and one narcissist. And then over time, I started to see other toxic people in my life. And yes, I definitely, pushed most of them out of my life. And the ones who remained, I kept at a distance. And I don't allow their opinions to affect me, right? Even those, I can't say that I have any full-time narcissists in my life anymore, thank goodness. But I can say that you're not alone there. This happens. We find one and we start to see a lot. And that's because we tend to be people pleasers, overgivers. We tend to not have very good boundaries until we educate ourselves. And then we end up just serving people on some level. We serve up the narcissistic supply like it's going out of style before we know what we're doing, right? But then we figure it out and we're like, oh, I got it. So, Bonnie, your inner circle may be getting smaller, but I am all about quality over quantity when it comes to that inner circle of people. So, I hope you are too. I know you are. Helen, hello. Helen says, would you class them as evil? I would. So, I have mixed feelings about this, right? Because I do think some of them are, right? I think some of them are evil people. But I also think, the word evil is relative, right? I also think that some of them are just broken people who don't know how to fix themselves. And because of the way that their damage is manifested, aren't capable of fixing themselves. You will see some of these lower level narcissists. And when I say lower level, I mean those who aren't, on the extreme end of the toxic scale, right? Or the spectrum. And you'll think, I think that was empathy, or that seems like they really care about something. And it's confusing. But I just want to remind you that the label is not as important as the actual way they make you feel, the way they treat you, right? It doesn't matter if you can label them a narcissist or just a toxic person or just someone who's toxic for you. Ultimately, what matters is how they treat you, how they make you feel. So ask yourself a question. Do I feel positive more often when I leave them than I feel negative? When I have spent time with this person, how do I feel when I walk away? Do I feel happy? Do I feel fulfilled? Do I feel good? Or do I feel like crap? Because if more than half the time, or even more than 25% of the time, you spend time with that person and you feel like crap, it's not worth it, in my opinion. And that person becomes toxic for you, whether they are toxic or not to other people. But 9 times out of 10, when they're toxic for you, 99 times out of 100, when they're toxic for you, they're toxic for everyone else in their lives. Yes. Okay. Mystique says, my girls are going to know all the red flags of abuser before they ever start dating. Everything I wish I was taught about cluster B personalities. My love, that is the way to go. Okay, listen, I believe in that. Okay, because here's the thing. When you have children and you have been raised by or have been involved with toxic people, a lot of us have been through both, then you can serve them well and you can break the cycle in your bloodline, in your family, by teaching them these things. I really think they should teach these things at school, right? But they don't yet. But I really think they should. And I think our responsibility as survivors, as thrivers, as we go forward, is to break the cycle, right? So break it in your own family. Teach your children different. Or if you can't do that, teach your grandchildren or teach the neighbor's children. Teach someone. Help one person and you've helped a whole line of people. You know what I'm saying? So I have a whole larger mission over at queenbeing.com called the Love Mission. And it's about exactly that. It's about breaking the cycle of toxicity in our families, in our bloodlines, in our lives, so that the people that come after us, they'll do better than us. I always tell my kids, I'm like, listen, let me tell you all the things I know. And then you 2 or 3, whoever they happen to be that day, stand up on my shoulders. Proverbially, they're all taller than me. Stand up on my shoulders and take that information and do better than me. Learn more things, because now you don't have to learn all these things I spent 35, 45 years learning, right? And I think that's what we do as humans for our children. And when we can teach them better than us, then we're good. I have one client who was telling me about what her father had done to her in her life. And her father had grown up being physically abused and very, very poor. Well, he grew up and he made a lot of money, and then he didn't beat her, but he was a terrible father otherwise, right? So she had material things and she didn't get physically beaten, but she was still emotionally abused, ignored, minimized, mentally tortured on so many levels. And so while I wanted her to see that, yes, in his mind, he does love you, he did better for you than his parents did for him, he missed all this other stuff, right? So here is a step up in generations. So yes, you were still horribly abused, but you didn't receive the physical abuse, and you didn't receive, you didn't have to walk around being teased for being poor, right? So now this woman, she can take for her own children someday, and she can take away the mental abuse and the torture and all of this stuff so that they can do better for their children. It becomes almost an evolutionary thing. You know what I'm saying? Okay, moving on. Okay, yeah, Mystique, I think that's really important. Jack says, ask your children about the NPC meme. Seriously, ask your kids. They'll know about it. Oh, I'm sure they know about it. I'll ask them. Yeah, Helpful Mom and Peggy are talking about the ultimatum. If somebody gives you an ultimatum, they lose immediately. I feel that way too. And I've said to people before when they've done that, I'm like, if somebody says to me, you choose me or you choose that, my job or my work, or you choose me or you choose that person, I go, well, you're making the choice for me when you say that to me, because I don't have to choose you or that. I can have both things in my life or not. But if you want to leave my life, that's on you. You know what I'm saying? And that would be different if there was some sort of addiction involved and, they were trying to help you, right? But an ultimatum in general, not appropriate for relationships. I've had people give them to me and they lose too. Yeah. On the flip side, I want to point something else out. And I don't know that anyone is here today that needs to hear this, but I will tell you this. This just came into my head and I feel compelled to tell you this based on that. I've seen a lot of situations where a narcissist will have an affair and they will come back and confess to the affair, or they'll be caught having the affair, and they will tell the person they're with, you know what, listen, I'm not sure. I think I love you both. I don't know who to choose. So I'm going to take some time and I'm going to pick one. Okay. I want you to listen very carefully. If that ever happens to you, walk away. Because in my mind, the fact that other person even found themselves in the running means I'm done. Because if you're in a relationship, you're in a committed monogamous relationship, and you haven't agreed to date other people or have other people in the relationship, then they've already broken everything by even allowing that person to be in the running. Never compete for someone's attention like that, because you will minimize and invalidate who you are as a person. And there is someone else out there who might actually love you for who you are. And I would like to just suggest that the first person that you should look to for love is yourself. And I know that sounds so cliche, but a lot of us were not taught self-love, and we don't even really comprehend what it feels like. It's something I swear to you guys, I was like 35 before I got it. And I'm still like, I have my moments, but mostly I'm okay with myself today. I've accepted my flaws and the ones I can accept, and the ones I can't accept, I've either tried to do something to fix them or I'm working on it. I'm human, but I think when we can't accept our flaws, when we can't accept who we are, we hurt ourselves. And I think competing for the attention of another person with someone else, another romantic prospect or another friend even, or another child of the same parent, don't do it. You deserve better than that. And whether you choose to love yourself or not, or you choose to, be involved in a competition, you're never going to feel safe in that relationship, because you're always going to be looking over your shoulder, waiting for the other person to come back or some other person to come back. You know what I'm saying? Don't do it. Okay, moving on. Yes. Okay, thank you, Jack, for sharing the thing with. Yes. Okay, let's talk about this. Helen says nobody believes us, and that's really true. Not always, but a lot of times narcissists are so good at wearing that mask with everyone except the people closest to them, that if you try to tell the story of what happened, two things happen. Number one, people just don't believe you, like Helen said. And number two, they think you're overreacting or you're exaggerating, because when you explain to them isolated incidents of abuse, they go, what is the big deal? Right? Because maybe you're at a party. And I think I've used this example before. My ex used to say to people when he was flirting, they would say, oh, I'm sorry. And he would go, oh, you're going to be, ha, ha, ha. It was so funny. And what I knew for sure is that was a flirt move for him, but nobody else knew that. And so he would do that in front of me and I would just go ballistic. I mean, in my own head, because I learned quickly that reacting publicly was not okay. Sometimes I would just leave the room, or I would storm off, and then I would be looking like the crazy one because why would I be upset about that? That's just some words. That's a dog whistle situation, but it's also a situation where, you know, everybody thought I was the crazy one because I was doing that, walking away or getting mad about some words, you know. In reality, what they didn't understand was this person had been psychologically abusing me about this sort of thing and like building up this paranoia in me for years. So, anyway, moving on. Now, I do like that Bass says, Bass, I'm sorry. I see the guitar. I think it's a guitar in your picture. Bass says, we believe each other and that's enough. Normies can't understand and we shouldn't expect them to. That's true. And you know what? Good for them if they can't on some level, right? Because if they didn't have to go through this, God bless them, right? But yeah, this is why we have these communities. This is why we have these types of live streams and why we have the support groups and everything else, because we get it and not everybody gets it. And so sometimes we need to be heard, or we even need to hear someone say what we've been through so that we know we're not crazy. That's why, in fact, I started writing about this like, my gosh, so long ago. I'm old, you guys. 2005, I think. And when I first started writing about it, I was doing it for myself because I thought I was crazy. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I started doing research. I realized what was going on. And I started writing like researched articles about this and on my personal blog, and people started to respond like, wow, this is my life too. Here I am today. Excuse me one second. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Helen says, if you're an empath, they destroy that in you. They don't destroy it in you unless you allow them to, but they certainly try to suppress it, right? And they want to destroy it, no doubt. But if you get away and you heal yourself, you can reconnect to your intuition. And in fact, you can start to reconnect even before you get away, but you have to get away at some point. I know a lot of people don't feel like they can. They don't feel like they have the financial ability, or they have kids and they're scared to leave because the narcissist has made threats about the kids or a number of other things. And so when you can't leave, some people, it's just about a lifestyle thing, right? They're like, well, this person has a lot of money and they don't let me have any money because financial abuse. And so if I leave, I'll be living, in a cracker box on the side of the road, or I can stay and put up with a little bit of crap and then I can live in this beautiful, amazing house, right? And I feel like on some level, a cracker box would be preferable, but I also understand, getting comfortable in a situation like that and not wanting to give up all the things. But there are limitations to what you can personally achieve in that situation. And so you have to decide, like Richard Grannon talks about taking the chocolate, right? So, for example, when I first left my ex-husband, I could not afford daycare to save my life. It was like $400 a month. My ex-husband was only supposed to pay $382 a month, which he never did. And, so I was working a not well-paying job and trying to support myself and a child while I was buying a house and everything else. So my parents made a deal with me and they said, we will pay half your daycare if you go to church with us every week. Well, it's a long story. I'm not going to go into details, but it was not something I wanted to do. However, I did it because I took the chocolate. I needed help paying for daycare. So they paid half of my daycare. I went to church every week and they were happy. And so were the daycare people, Okay. Now here we have Angel Mary says, I've been free for almost 3 years now. And at this point, I'm completely void of emotions for him. Thank goodness for that, right? I feel like I could pass my ex-husband on the street and almost not recognize him at this point. And so I get that, right? It's a beautiful thing. But you shouldn't focus on, when you get to that place where you don't think about them every second of every day. You might even wake up one day and go, oh my gosh, I didn't think about them all day yesterday. Like two or 3 years ago was the first time I didn't think about my mother on Mother's Day, for example. And it was a good thing, right? But at this point, I hope you're focusing on yourself. I know it's hard to do that when you're someone who's been where we've been, especially if you have kids and everything else. But take some time and make it all about you just a little bit. I know it feels unnatural, but it will help. Okay. Yeah, Bonnie, chameleons for sure. Okay. Oh, Hufflemom says, at the time, it wasn't about the ultimatum, it was about the faith, because she wanted to stay. The dream of being married in her faith was all she had left. She said it was that or lose her sanity. Hey, you know what? That is a boundary. Even though maybe you struggled with boundaries up to that point, when you were given the ultimatum, you set a boundary, even though it cost you that relationship. So let me just say, good for you, girl. Okay. And I guess it worked out okay because you ended up with Jack, huh? All right, let's see here. Got some hard. Oh, now I lost my place in tab. Okay. Oh, yeah, you and the ex were together for 8 years. That makes sense. Okay. So yeah, that surprises me that he would hold on to it for so long, right? That he would hold on to the false self. But when you look back in hindsight, Hufflemom, do you see the disconnect anywhere? Do you see the red flags in hindsight? Because I know it's easy to miss them in the moment, but sometimes you see them in hindsight. Okay. Okay, Wendy, I'm gonna Sony WH. Okay, see what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna right click that and Google search it for later. Okay, there we go. Thank you for the suggestion. All right. Oh, here we go. Hufflemom says, oh, Angela Falsetta. Hey, Angela Falsetta, welcome back. Hufflemom says, later I had a strange feeling that the ex's marriage wouldn't last longer than a year. I later found out the ex was married to another woman and divorced after a year. It would have killed me. Well, you know what? Thank goodness that you didn't stay. Yeah. Okay. Number one, I'm glad to see you. Okay. Oh, Andrew says bows are supposed to be the best, but how is the microphone? I think the microphone is the issue. I can hear fine through these, but it's just like the mic that's the anyway. I bought a new mic, like I said, but I need a mic stand. Okay. And we'll get that soon. Bose headphones. Okay. Great city in jolly old England. Oh. Okay, here we go. Tina says, how are they able to turn your children against you? So they do it in a number of ways. Sometimes they do it by financial means. They spoil them financially. They buy them whatever they want. They give them whatever they want. So a lot of times it's too much permission, not enough discipline. And a lot of times they twist things that happen and they make the kids think that you are the cause. See, even adult children can be very influenceable, especially by a narcissist. And here's the other thing to think about. If during your relationship, the kids got ignored a lot for different reasons, or they, maybe the scapegoat was treated really badly by the narcissist or whatever, sometimes what'll happen is in an effort to hurt you, the narcissist will take your kids and they will start flipping everything. Well, I was only like that because your mother da 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 da, or your father da da da, whatever. Or this only happened because of your mother lied to me, or your father lied to me, and so they blame any of their own bad behavior on you. And then for the time that they're trying to hurt you, they act like a saint to the kids. And so they play this poor me game. They play this it's all her fault, their fault game. It's projection. It's smear campaigning. It's a whole process, and I definitely think they do it on purpose. I'm so sorry if that's happened to you, Tina. I know it's painful. Oh, Mystique says 2 baby mice climbed into my daughter's hands because they needed help. We went and got them formula. That's beautiful. I love it so much. Francisco says, what's the deal with narcissists and pets? My ex loved her dog to death. It was like her child. How can someone be so kind to a pet yet so cruel to people? Great question. I've seen this a lot. I've also seen narcissists go the other way, by the way, where my ex-husband physically, I had to get rid of a dog because I caught him hurting the dog, beating the dog. And I got rid of it. I should have got rid of him, but I kept him for a few more months. The man, not the dog. But I did take the dog to a safer place, and I realized then that something was really off. But how do they? So I've also seen them be completely amazing, just like you said, like they're their children, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because number one, pets, they don't talk back to you. Pets are always happy to see you. Pets are basically really good sources of narcissistic supply when they're properly trained and when they're properly connected to their owner. Now, we can all find benefits in pets, and loving an animal makes a person look like a good person for sure. But you have to remember that the animal doesn't have the ability to argue very well. Some animals kind of act like they want to. I have this one cat, woo, he argues. But seriously though, pets are pure supply for a narcissist. They can be. They love them unconditionally. They don't talk back. They're so happy to, if you were to act like a pet acted, but in human form, then you would be also pure narcissistic supply. You just wouldn't have a self because humans are a little more complicated than animals. But it wouldn't be worth your energy, trust me. But that's why I think people have the nerve to have opinions that differ from hers. People have the nerve to want her time and her attention and to feel upset if they don't get it. Now, the dog might also want time and attention. But when you come back after not giving the dog time and attention, the dog's just so happy to see you. It doesn't even care. It has no ego. You know what I mean? Okay. Whereas a human would potentially, be upset, ask for, reasons, want, support. Dogs just are happy to see them. You see what I'm saying? It's different. Okay. Let's see here. Yes, definitely do send any video suggestions through. Put them in the comments. You can put them here. Jack is so kind as to compile a list for me, and I'm working on making all those videos. Yes, I feel you, Bonnie. I feel you. I believed my brother too. Bonnie said her sister, for their whole life, everything she thought was okay, and then it wasn't, and she didn't ever. I've been there. Okay, Angela says, NB was betraying me all my life in subtle ways. I did not read the signs for the ultimate backstabbing betrayal. Yeah, Angela, that is very similar to what happened with my narcissistic brother. Very, very similar. Yes. Oh, Helen, you're so right. It's a lonely life before they leave you. Guys, how many of you have ever felt completely alone in a room full of people? Because I have. They do this to you. They isolate you so much that you forget how to talk about yourself. They make you feel so bad about yourself that you don't even want to talk about yourself, right? And so when you go into a room full of people, it almost feels like you're in this little bubble, and people don't understand you. You don't understand them. There's this space between you, right? This is an ongoing issue with narcissists. I totally get it. It is so, I remember feeling so lonely in my relationship, so alone. And again, it didn't matter if I was in a whole room full of people, which I often was, but I still felt completely solitary and I had no support. And I totally get it. I get it. Michelle says, my son, who is not his son, turned on me after I left. My narcissist is so confusing. So here's another situation like this, Michelle, where the narcissist probably, smear campaigned you to your child. I don't know how old your child is. I assume old enough to know better. I hope that you're able to work through that with your son. I would be very interested in knowing that story. London says, it is crazy that they all share the same behaviors. It's very creepy, right? I know. It's ridiculous. I know. Crystal says, I noticed the ex had no identity, even to the degree that he would copy. Oh, yeah. I've seen that a lot, where they copy your whole personality and your whole self. It's pretty exhausting. Sorry, I have people walking through the room right now. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, that they literally become you on some level, or they try to. It's pretty shocking. Yeah. Okay. How you doing, Crystal? Here we go. Yeah, London agrees. Special agrees with London. Yeah. Okay. Where was I? Okay. Jack says, narcissists have no trouble being cruel and mean to your pets, just so you know, but they look at their pets as extensions of themselves. That's valid. Yeah. Like I said, they're perfect extensions because they don't get mad very easily. And if they do, they're quick to get over it, which is a little treat or something. You know what I mean? Depending on the pet. But yeah, that's exactly right. They'll be mean to your pets for sure. Hey, Adrian, how are you? It's good to see you. Base says doggos offer no resistance, only love and loyalty to Narky. So that might explain. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yes. Okay. Okay. Where was I? Janine says, he says he has ASD, so hence the reason he comes across as having no empathy. I have a son with ASD, so he probably mirrored to manipulate. So I assume you're talking about autism spectrum disorder here, and that is very common. You see, the thing that's really tough with autism spectrum disorder, depending on where they're at on the spectrum, is that they might totally seem like a regular, you know, functional person, and they might be otherwise. But people with ASD, to my understanding, please, someone correct me if I'm wrong. I've done some research on this and I've talked to some individuals about this. But people who have ASD generally do have emotional and compassionate empathy. They just can't always express it the way they would like to, right? So even if they seem, you know, annoyed or to not care, they just don't know how to properly express those feelings. And so they may not act directly like they have empathy, but they do on some level show it, whether they do externally or not. Does that make sense? So they're feeling it. They just don't always know how to act on it. So maybe they struggle with a compassionate empathy, but certainly they might not always understand why you feel the way you feel because they wouldn't feel that way, right? But often if you explain it to them or you're, communicate with them enough, they'll get it and they'll try. And please, again, correct me if I'm wrong on this, guys, because I have seen many narcissists saying, I'm autistic, or I have Asperger's, or whatever, but that's no excuse, because people with different types of autism generally aren't directly cruel to the people in their lives, at least not on purpose, and not in such cold, horrible ways as the narcissist will be. Tell me your thoughts. Okay. Helen says, my first day in college, he went behind my back to put all my new friends against me. They only told me after 6 months. Helen, that is terrible. And that is another example of someone who's actively undermining you. They want you to be socially isolated. You know why, right? Because they want to control you. So, yeah. I don't know how I'm doing on time, because it's still telling me I started streaming less than a minute ago. I'm pretty sure it was longer than that, but yeah. Okay. All right. Helen, yes. Jack says, I'm not sure why Skittles, my parents' cat, shows affection to my narcissist mother. He loves and trusts Huffle Mom and I as well. Probably because Mom hasn't shown Skittles Narc Rage yet. Yeah, exactly. because maybe she did once and he didn't understand because he's a cat, or maybe, I don't know. I know cats tend to go away from really loud noises, so it depends on how she rages, but also they tend to be very moved by food, some of them. So if she gave him the right treats, then we call it treatles over here. Then yeah. Okay, Base says they come at you with smiles, knives hidden behind their back. Knife hidden behind their backs. That's right. That's right. Yep. You're right, Bonnie. It is shocking when a sibling turns on you like that. It absolutely is, especially when you really believe that they are on your side. I believed it. I mean, deeply. I was devastated when it happened to me. Devastated. Yeah, Base, right. You find out who your friends are for sure. No doubt about that. No doubt. This is a valid point that Jack made. Autism spectrum disorder is neurological. NPD is a personality disorder, specifically cluster B, and that's the truth. They're two different types of things, but again, they do look very similar on paper, especially the higher, especially when you're looking at the lower end of the narcissism spectrum and the higher end of the ASD spectrum, in my opinion. People who are higher functioning, and then the narcissists who are not quite as toxic, right? So, but that lack of empathy, and it's very difficult to define it here because, yeah, there is a difference. There is a difference, and I think this is going to sound weird, but the difference is evil. The difference is doing mean things to hurt someone knowingly and doing it anyway, right? It's the different type of, yeah. Okay. Melissa says, hi, Melissa. She says, how can we tell if someone has a flying monkey, for example? how can we tell if someone has a flying monkey? For example, if I still speak to his daughter from another marriage, is it better to just keep information about him to myself? Yes. Unless it's something that you want him to know, don't tell her. Probably, unless you know for sure. I mean, I don't know how old she is. Unless you know for sure that she's on your side, don't tell her anything that will cause you trouble, right? And if you do, just be very selective about what you say, because you have to know there is always a possibility that unless she's literally no contact with him and his people, then she might say something or let something slip. And I'm sure she means well, but protect yourself. You got to. Angela Falsetta says the narcissist siblings are betraying and manipulating us all of our lives, and we let it go. And still, we tried to form a relationship with them. So then the ultimate betrayal is a killer. Yes. I don't know for sure that my sibling is a narcissist. I really don't. I'm not sure, but I do know that he has developed the tendencies as an older person. That's all I can say. I do know that he was also raised by one, and he was the golden child. So there's that too. But not all golden children are toxic. Some of them are damaged in a different way, but yeah. Mystique says, my ex kept the mask on for a very long time. Yeah, they do sometimes. They certainly do. My pleasure, Wendy. Wait, let me see. Melissa. I don't know. I think I answered that question, but I do have a whole list of videos about flying monkeys as well. Okay. Oh yeah, how can I tell? Okay, so how do you know if she's a flying monkey? Well, things will come back to you, right? You'll hear things. Things will start to become drama, and you won't know quite why. And he will know things about you that he should know. I mean, you'll know on some level, but until you know for sure, I wouldn't share anything that could get you in trouble with that person. I would, the best revenge, the best way to win is to just move on without them, and don't let them be in here, or in your life, right? You want them to be separate from you. You want to live your life as though they don't exist, and find a way to be happy. Because if you do that, it'll drive them crazy. You won't even have to care about it, because you'll be over there being happy. You know what I'm saying? It's better. Okay. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Jack says, oh wait. London says, did your mom tell you? Oh, let me tell you about that. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Wendy, for the email. I will look into that, and yes, I'll make that video as well. London says, did your mom tell you she filed a report with CPS? At first, she tried to lie about it. This is what happened. The CPS worker, when she finished doing the inspection of our house and interviewing our children, she said, listen, this is obviously a revenge call. We get these all the time. Don't worry about it. We're closing the case today. And I said, listen, do you think it'd be okay for me to read the report of the call? Because they, I guess, type down exactly what they say in the calls. And she said, oh, sure, I guess so. So she handed me it. I remember exactly where I was sitting, exactly all the things. And in the report, I read the words, the oldest takes care of his brothers and sisters. Well, the oldest only had a brother and a sister. And those particular words, always taking care of his brothers and sisters, their brothers and sisters. Well, my mother, the whole time I was growing up, I raised my brothers and sisters all the time. So that was red flag number one. Red flag number two was that one of the first complaints was that my son had gone to church camp with shoes that didn't fit properly and were all beat up. And that was true, because the week before, when we were packing for church camp, I had just bought my son a brand new pair of Skechers, which aren't the cheapest shoes on the planet. And he lost them, meaning they were hidden under his bed, and he didn't want to go find them to pack them. And I said, listen, you need to bring your new shoes. Mom, I don't want to ruin my new shoes at camp. They told me to wear the old, ugly shoes. I said, okay, you can bring the ugly old shoes, but you need the other shoes because you're going to be hurting if you walk around in these shoes all week. No, I won't. I promise it'll be fine. I said, you better not complain. He said, I won't complain. He didn't want to get up and do it because he was watching, playing video games and doing whatever he wanted to do. Didn't want to take the time to find his shoes. So whether it was legit or not, I made a parenting decision at that moment to let him suffer. Okay. I'm not saying it was right. I'm saying he needed to learn a lesson. Okay. So I said to him, here you go. Okay, that's fine. So I sent him. I even mentioned to my mother because she was taking him to church camp and would be there with him for the week. And I said, you can just I'm just letting you know this is what it is. Well, a couple days in, he started complaining about his feet. So they went and they bought him a new pair of shoes. So I was a little irritated by this because it sort of, but I didn't say anything. So when he came back, I noticed the new shoes and I said, hey, can I pay you for the shoes? I actually bought him shoes, but he chose blah, blah, blah. I explained again. No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. Well, then about a month later is when the CPS worker showed up. And that was one of the incidents mentioned in the report was the shoes. Anyway, as soon as the CPS lady left, I called my mother and I basically went no contact with her in that moment. She tried to scream at me and act crazy to me. And, you better call your brother. And I'm like, nope, I'm done with all this. So then moments later, my brother called and he went off on me and told me, blah, 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 the shoes, blah, blah, blah. Mom said this, mom said that. I said, never call me again. And that was pretty much the day that I ended my relationship with those people. And I didn't even know what no contact was. I just knew that I didn't want those people in my life anymore after they threatened my children in that way, So that's what happened. They did eventually. My brother admitted it. My mother never quite admitted it, but she did it. Yeah. Okay. Jack says, make a 411 video on flying monkeys and enablers. Yes, I've done it before. I'll do it again. Angela says, I did read The Subtle Signs of Narcissist Abuse by my narcissist brother from childhood, but I hoped it would change. I dreaded the ultimate betrayal and I didn't want to believe it. And then he did it, that ultimate one. And I'm so sorry. I don't know what he did, but I'm so sorry. I know how painful it is. Adrian says, I don't get mad anymore, but I'm still in silence. And I don't know if you're still connected to the narcissist, Adrian, but that's painful. And that means you're numb. I was numb for a long time. That's how I survived a long time. But the problem with staying numb is that you also don't get happy, right? You might not be sad, but you're also not happy. And when you're still stuck in the relationship, being numb is better than the alternative, because you're not going to be super happy in that relationship. The other shoe is always going to drop. But when you're out of the relationship, you've got to figure it out. So you've got to figure out a way to not only feel your feelings and let them flow through and pass so you can heal, but then how to start feeling again for real. It's mindfulness. It's a process. I still have moments. My go-to response when I feel like something's really wrong, my go-to response is to go numb. Still today, I have to stop and remind myself to feel things sometimes when it comes to pain, sadness, that sort of thing, because it's just how I survived for so long that I just instantly, I go blank, and it's terrible. I don't get angry. I don't get sad. I just don't do anything. And then I have to let myself feel. I have to give myself permission to feel and know that it's safe to feel and it's okay to feel what I feel. It's a process, guys. And it's something that doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it's been years for me. And I'm pretty healed, but I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And so you still have to always be, it's just like an alcoholic, right? We are in narcissistic abuse recovery forever, right? Just like an alcoholic is a recovering alcoholic forever, even if they never take another drink. And I'm not saying that we have to always be sad or we have to always, oh, I'm a victim. I don't want you to be a victim. I want you to be a survivor, a thriver. But you have to let yourself feel and you have to let yourself have permission to move forward. And you will learn ultimately that your opinion is the one that matters in your life the most. Like I certainly give my children's opinion a pretty decent weight in my life, but mine, when it comes to myself, comes first. If they have thoughts and feelings they want to share with me about myself, I want to hear them. And just like when it comes to them and their choices, as they get older, I allow them much more autonomy, because when they were 4 or 5, maybe their choices were a red shirt or a blue shirt, right? But, now they're 13, 17, 23. Their choices are a lot more grown up as they get older. So different choices. My 17-year-old right now is trying to decide where to go to college. So, it's his choice. You know what I'm saying? Long story. Anyway, I think I'm way over time right now, guys. I don't even know. It's still telling me less than a minute ago. So listen, I'm going to wrap up. I think I'm past time. I will be. Yeah, good. Okay. Jack, thanks for sharing the link to Lisa's channel. All right. So I'll be here again next week with Dana. If you do have video topics, I should hopefully be recording some more videos this afternoon. And I'm also over on TikTok if you guys are interested in that under Coach Angie Atkinson. And I do videos, shorter ones over there, but I post a lot of those over here, not all of them. But I post some of them over here. So if you guys are interested in the shorter ones, let me know your thoughts. Keep me posted on all this stuff. What else? I can't think straight. Helpful Mom should be posting in the chat pretty soon if she hasn't already about our texting service. So if you are interested in showing up to these streams, being notified outside of YouTube, then you could text AngieLive, all one word, to 33222, and then also Dana Live, all one word, to 22999. And whenever we go live together or separately, we'll send you a text 5 to 15 minutes before. You can also hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to choose if you want to stay connected that way. But this is kind of iffy because YouTube doesn't always send all the notifications. So make sure you sign up for the texting if you really want to make sure you show up. And again, let me know if you have questions, concerns, things you want to talk about. I wish I could stay longer because I see some really good questions here. I love you all. Take care of yourself. Know that you're not alone. And I'll see you next Tuesday. And I think we'll still be on this channel because if Dana makes it, it's last time we were on her channel. So we'll be over here. We alternate channels. Sorry about all the confusingness. I have ADHD. I'm doing my best. I'll see you guys soon. Hugs and love, and we'll talk soon.